Good day. Thank you for tuning into this presentation. My name is Ruud van Ommen from Delft University of Technology, and it's a pleasure to present this joint work with authors from various universities, as you can see, on nature-inspired self-cleaning surfaces. We're looking at mechanisms, modeling, and manufacturing. And actually, from this group of authors coming you, Srdjan, Sasic, Liu, Samir, Salameh, and Robin Ross, I'm bringing you like a short version of the review paper that we published earlier this year, in which we looked for nature-inspired self-cleaning surfaces into mechanisms, modeling, and in manufacturing. Well, I can't treat all these aspects in less than 15 minutes. And because of the theme of the session, I will focus here mostly on modeling. Well, in this review paper that I'm referring to, we've been looking at 5 different mechanisms. We have identified 5 different mechanisms that can be seen as nature-inspired in this area. And in this specific talk, I will mostly focus on the second one, self-propelled jumping droplets. And at the end, we'll also briefly touch upon underwater super oleophobic surfaces. Well, why looking in this connection on the one hand between inspired by nature and on the other hand technology? Well, this bio-inspired type of technology is one of the very early examples of mimicking bio solutions, biosurfaces in chemical engineering is something that obtained a lot of attention in recent years. But in this case of self-cleaning surfaces, actually was already for decades a look at biology and how, for example, lotus leaves were functioning there as a self-cleaning. Well, the nice thing is that in the past decade, more and more nanotech tools have become available, production methods in order actually to make these surfaces artificial. And on the other hand, there is a market pool. For example, for solar cells, it is very interesting if you can give those self-cleaning properties so that you don't have to clean these surfaces on a regular basis. Now, before we really go to the modeling, I want to show you a couple of recent highlights from the people involved in this review. Robin Ross and his team have recently published a very nice paper in Nature where they showed a novel way of making self-cleaning surfaces that are much more robust than the ones that are typically used. So you see here in the movie that they're trying to damage the surface in all different ways with sanding paper with a knife, and still it maintains its very nice properties. So I would definitely recommend, if you're interested, to have a look at that paper. On the other hand, they're also doing a lot of work on developing methods for measuring the adhesion forces via the contact angle. That's of course also very important in this area, and there was even a spin-off created to do these kind of droplet measurements. Then with my own team, I'm looking a lot at gas phase coating methods in order to give surfaces properties that are desirable, that can create barrier coatings. It can be giving catalytic properties, but in the realm of this talk, I'll focus on changing hydrophobic and hydrophilic type of behavior of surfaces. We often apply these methods to powders in a fluidized bed, like shown over here. And here you have an example where we've been coating titanium nanoparticles that are originally quite hydrophilic, and if you disperse them in a two liquid layer system, like shown on the right hand side by the 2 photographs, then the particles untreated are going to the aqueous phase, and after molecular layer deposition, which is making them very hydrophobic, they move to the organic phase, as shown by the right hand side photograph. Then finally, Srdjan, Sasic and co-workers, they're very much interested at Chalmers University at heat exchangers, for example, for boilers and very dirty environment, so to say. So also there it's very attractive if you can give these surfaces self-cleaning properties. And they showed when going from hydrophilic to hydrophobic surfaces, that indeed the fouling was much less on these surfaces. And this team is, apart from doing experimental work, also heavily involved in different types of materials, mostly involving multiphase flows. And that's, as said, most of the topic of this study, because these type of numerical studies can serve a number of purposes. You can get more insight in what's going on, trying to reproduce it via your simulations, but then also you can study a much wider parameter space than with experiments. Then it is much cheaper to vary parameters in an easy way, and even go to parameter values that you can't obtain in an experimental setting. And finally, you can also then use, in principle, these simulations to make designs and to make suggestions, at least, for future self-cleaning surfaces. Well, there are different methods being used here: direct numerical simulations, volume of fluid, lattice Boltzmann. I'll rather show you now some examples, and we won't go into all the details over there. Now, one example is self-propelling droplets on wings, for example, from this small insect, and that has a structure as shown over here, really a nanostructured surface, which for a long time we were not able to mimic. But recent advances in nanotech fabrication enable now that we can make those kind of very regular substrates with these kind of pillars, really on the small micro, even down to the nanoscale. And that gives then this droplet, the jumping droplet type of behavior that is shown over here in this paper from Milkovic, where they actually apply it to compose and heat exchange a surface such with copper oxide that fouling is being removed. So at first there are certain droplets. If you look some moment later, then these droplets are away because they jumped from there, and that gives a cleaning action on the surface. How does this jumping actually work? Let me demonstrate that to you using this movie. Let me see if I. Yeah, there we go. So you have two droplets next to another. They merge together, and by that action, the whole combined droplet jumps from the surface and goes back. So in this phenomenon, we can distinguish a couple of different steps. First, you create this liquid bridge. Then the collision of the liquid bridge on the surface is taking place, and that leads to oscillations. It's touching the surface, and then it's releasing because of excess surface energy. And that can indeed be captured very well by simulations, as you see over here from this paper, 2017, in Physics of Fluids. So you get this capillary forming, leading to an oscillation, which leads to movement of a situation where the droplets were at first stagnant. Well, actually, that can then be used to study the removal of that can be applied to actually use it to remove particles from the surface, and that's shown in the photographs over here. Here, kind of a model system. Glass particles are on such a wing surface, and the droplet is actually then moving away, moving out the particle. And indeed, Weissam and co-workers have been able also to capture this in the simulation that you see here on top of the photographs. So this is indeed a good mechanism to get rid of particles on the surface. Now, this is not always working this way by itself. For example, when we move to super early phobic surfaces, when they are underwater, then actually you see on the left-hand side that there is not really too much jumping, but that when we have a nice changing of the surface with these with this kind of pointer, this nano rod pointing upwards over there, that really gives a lot of difference, and then you get a considerable height over which your droplet is jumping. And you see that it's playing with these kind of modifications, so we can indeed tune the design, and we can make sure that we optimize the action in order to clean the surface. So that brings me to the final slide. I think there are a number of challenges for numerical modeling. We've been looking at different mechanisms, different surfaces very briefly. It's good to mention that there is no single type of modeling approach that can reproduce all the different phases of the removal of contaminants. So we have to tune and select the proper one for a specific purpose that we want to reach. So far, most of the studies were only at the jumping droplets, and not too much attention was still devoted to actually the removal of fouling. That it's just getting started right now, so that certainly needs more attention in this area from the researchers that are active. And finally, of course, the challenge is also that you have a huge parameter space, so you can vary so many properties of the droplets, of the particles, of the surface, of course, as well. So this gives a very large room for study, but we truly believe that this can really strengthen the field. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you further good day.